namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, ni hao, buenos dias, buenos tardes, welcome in. What up though? This is session dos, week numero uno, session dos of Cafe Mélanger sessions. Session. We are on location. We are on a field trip at this point. And again, we're in the beginning stages of establishing this. And so I'm doing it to do it. A little bit late, about a little bit less than 10 minutes, 10 minutes late, or after schedule for doing this joint. Again, the idea eventually is for this to be a hangout place for people to feel comfortable. Don't even have to talk, but just to like socialize, to share company in the context and the environment of mélanger. And the thing about mélanger is that when mélanger people are welcome, are comfortable being mélanger, people of all ethnicities, it establishes an environment where people of all ethnicities are welcome to be each ethnicity's own genuine self. That's the nature of mélanger. That's the benefit and the gift and the blessing of mélanger. And so that's what this is. We are working to establish within this venture. Is establishing an online space, an online forum, gathering place of mélanger. So whilst we build the infrastructure for that, I'm just doing these sessions and establishing a certain regularity and constancy, safe space for being ourselves, and then building ourselves, building our community. So that's what this is about. I ain't necessarily going to say where I'm at the moment because that's other than the point, because this is an online thing, so it matters little where I am. Yeah, it's not a secret, but whatever. As I mentioned before, I am also double dipping because I am on the clock at this moment for doing another thing, fulfilling another obligation. How you doing, bro? All right, how about yourself?
All right, how you doing?
All right. Ha, we got it.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. So it's a study session. It's a teaching and guiding study session on Tuesdays, which is today. It's a field trip. So I'm in the midst of that field trip, and this is part of the studies. And I'm the only one here at the moment, so I'm attending to this. And I'm making myself available for this. So, as I mentioned before in the previous session numero uno, the consideration is not for me to be presenting, because that's a lot to do, particularly on a daily basis, and particularly for an extended period of time. I'll plan to be here for about half an hour, actually a little bit less than that today, because we have another thing coming up in less than an hour, a discussion group, our first discussion group in the vicinity, so I got to make my way towards that. I was pausing to look at a butterfly, a white butterfly, and it reminds me of a white moth that I saw earlier today. So anyways, that some of the stuff is going on. I do have some things to share though. Might as well share convo as much as I can. There are dos cosas that I think of at the moment, and I think of in leading up to this moment. I got about 15 minutes, a little bit less than that, maybe like, wow, only about 5-10 minutes actually, to be honest. So here we go. Numero uno is, I mentioned this on a number of occasions, a number of conversations, but there's a number of years ago, I put together a multi-ethnic multiplex where I showcase, I basically copy and pasted videos on YouTube that had to deal with mélanger, and the criteria was extremely minimal. Just are you talking about mélanger in some way? All right, put it together. But just to have like a thing where people can see other people talking about this type of stuff. And so one of the videos that I view and that I include is a documentary that features young people. And on this video, there's a brother and sister who are interviewed. And the sister who's being interviewed made a metaphor, shared a metaphor, an analogy about being mixed or being melange. She said it's like being invited to all the clubs, being invited to all the parties in town, but never being invited to the VIP section. And so it's that notion of we're welcome, but there's a certain amount of distance about inclusion. There's always that otherness. And so even if we're considered cool within many of the different communities, there's just like, yeah, but they still not one of us kind of situation. And then so she goes on to say how eventually Mélanger people, brethren, we go on to make our own VIP section, our own clubs and our own VIP section. So when I heard that a number of years ago, it resonates with me. I continue to share that. I like that analogy. I think it resonates with particularly young people as well, in a direct sense, but also in a further, deeper, meaningful sense as well. So anyways, that being said, guess what? Through the years, I've been to the VIP sections. And I've been in the VIP rooms of many different communities. And this is what I've learned. Here's one thing I learned. First of all, in the VIP section, there are rules. You gotta know how to behave. You gotta know how to hold yourself, handle yourself. And much of the rules are just don't do this, don't do that, don't pop off at the mouth, don't go ego grandstanding this and the other. Just be modest, get in where you fit in, be respectful, see what's going on around, and accommodate oneself accordingly. That's the VIP section. There might be a few rules of like this is what we should do, but for the most part it's like don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. But here's the other thing. VIP room ain't the biggest joint going on. There's another room. It's the control room. It's where the bosses are. The bosses that ain't bling blinging it and popping crystal and all that other stuff. The bosses who own the clubs, and not only just the clubs, but like the bosses who are influencing the bosses who own the clubs, because the bosses who own the clubs ain't bosses ultimately. Bosses are bigger than that. So that my whole point is there's another room. It's the control room. It's where the bosses are, and there are rules for being. I've been in some control rooms, and the rules, fewer control rooms than VIP rooms. The rules for the control rooms are, all those things in the VIP room apply to this, and even further. You got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to do this. And so it's heavy. Particularly, the rules are different in many ways in different communities. A lot of rules are the same, but some of the rules are different. So it's heavy stuff. So I say all this because in my work as a spiritual diplomat, as a mélanger advocate and activist, I find, and others find, a rubric of all these rules of how to handle ourselves in the different rooms, in the different environments with different cultures and peoples. And so there's something called the Welt ethos that articulates this rubric of rules, of these principles. And so I share a very concise rendering of these rules. It's actually very simple. Uno is honesty, dos is sobriety, tres is veganism, cuatro is marital fidelity, and cinco is ethical or fair economics. Those 5 rules. Now you might say, well, hold up, that rule ain't in this community, that community. What I'm saying is that's the rubric to handle yourself in any of the VIP rooms and in any of the control rooms. Yes, some cultures emphasize, got to eat the meat and this, that, and the other. However, some communities like it, not at all, not a chance, never. So that is a rubric to handle oneself in all of the joints. And for those joints that say you got to do this and you got to do that, there might be a conversation where we'll be like, oh no, well, an explanation of why not do that. But again, the priority is not to offend, not to do something that is directly offensive. And then when being solicited to do something that is disagreeable to oneself, having an explanation of why one abstains from doing that. So that's why I tout that. That's one of the reasons why I tout. That's what I find. That's what I practice, because that's what I've learned. That's what I've lived. That's what I've been taught, and that's what I honor. And that's what That's what I find effective. That's what I find resonant. And there are a whole lot of details, further details that go into that. All right. How you doing, bro? All right. Doing all right. Thank you. I'm recording like a session, just chopping it up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you catching the rays today?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it is.
Have a great day.
May you're the same. So these are the principles that, oh yeah, there are details to these joints, and it's ancient. It's for thousands of years it's been like this, and so we might have new articulations or new words to describe things like veganism. Veganism has been around for thousands of years. And has been around in many societies and many communities for thousands of years in many different ways, through fasts, through vows, and additionally. So ain't nothing new. Sobriety, the same thing, has been around for thousands of years and in many different ways. So that's how I handle myself. That's like the concise articulation of the rules of the game, to be in any of the VIP rooms and any of the control rooms. And cats who try to persuade cats away from that are basically doing it as a way of establishing influence or manipulation. I'm not downing any culture that prescribes that, because there are very strong rules and rituals in many cultures that indeed call upon certain things. However, to enforce that upon others is somewhat extraneous. So anyways, that's one thing I share, is the VIP analogy, the VIP metaphor. Cosa número dos. It is, I'll just jump to it, because I'm about to sign off on this joint. Today, this evening, marks the eve of a new year in the Holy Earth calendar. It's a calendar that I live by, that includes the many different calendars of Earth, a dozen calendars to be honest, to be semi-exact. And so today begins the beginning of a new year. All right, again. All right. And so in that beginning of a new year, right, in the tradition of Mélanger, there is a period where we affirm our ancestors, because in the experience of Mélanger, our ancestors are too often and too much called into question and denied and repressed, and additionally. And so this is a ceremony that honors our ancestors, and it's conducted through the period of a year, and so that's what begins this week. I'm going to pause for a second. What's going on, Max? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Jasmine? Hi. So, there's paper, and no, I'm not going to share it. It's too quick, too hurried. But there is a liturgy, a series of poetry, song, meal, and prayers and meditation, stuff like that, where we honor that. Music, dance, I think maybe dance, if I recall correctly, but it's been going on for a couple years, and that's what we do. How you doing, bro? All right. That's this evening, and it continues for a week. It can be done at any point in the next week, on any evening in the next week. But that's something that's going on at this moment. So that's what I had to share today. Again, only one person's been invited to this joint. The person shows up yesterday, so there's little expectation today. So I'm gonna cut this short a little bit for today. Again, like I said, I have an obligation in about half an hour, so I have to walk over there to get there. It's a nice day. I ain't gonna show it too much because there are people around, and we're being mindful of privacy. So all that communicated, Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, zaijian, adios, te jahui, sempina, asmu, kelly, ufred, love and peace.